The history of Iran is one of the oldest and richest in the world, reaching back thousands of years before the beginning of the Common Era. Around 3,000 years before Christ, early agricultural communities and city-states began to form in the region that is now Iran. Among the first known civilizations were the Elamites, who built powerful kingdoms in southwestern Iran and developed their own system of writing and trade networks around 2,000 years before Christ. In the first millennium before Christ, waves of Indo-Iranian tribes migrated across the Iranian plateau. Among them were the Medes and the Persians. By the 7th century before Christ, the Medes had established a powerful kingdom that unified much of western Iran. Shortly afterward, in the 6th century before Christ, Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid dynasty, rose to power. Under his rule, beginning around 535 years before Christ, the Achaemenid Empire expanded rapidly, stretching from the Indus Valley in the east to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. Cyrus was celebrated for his leadership, tolerance, and the famous Cyrus Cylinder, often called the world's first charter of human rights. Following Cyrus, rulers such as Darius the Great and Xerxes further strengthened the empire. Magnificent cities like Persepolis were built as symbols of imperial power and unity. However, in the year 333 before Christ, the empire fell to the forces of Alexander the Great, marking the beginning of the Hellenistic period in Iranian history. After the death of Alexander, Iran was ruled by the Seleucid dynasty, but local powers soon regained control. The Parthian Empire emerged around the 3rd century before Christ and ruled for nearly 5 centuries. The Parthians became known for their skilled cavalry and resistance against Roman invasions. They maintained a system of semi-independent kingdoms that balanced local autonomy with imperial cohesion. In the 3rd century after Christ, the Sassanid dynasty came to power. The Sassanid Empire, which lasted from about 230 to 635 after Christ, became one of the most sophisticated states of the ancient world. Its rulers revived Persian traditions, promoted Zoroastrianism as the state religion, and built cities, roads, and irrigation systems. The empire engaged in centuries of rivalry with the Roman and later Byzantine empires and became a major center of art, philosophy, and science. In 635 after Christ, Arab Muslim forces conquered Persia, bringing Islam to the region. Over the next few centuries, Iran became a center of Islamic learning, literature, and architecture. Various dynasties, such as the Samanids, Buyids, and Seljuks, ruled over parts of Iran between the 9th and 12th centuries after Christ. Persian culture and language flourished, giving rise to poets like Ferdowsi, who wrote the Shahnameh, the great epic of Persian identity. In the 13th century after Christ, the Mongol invasions devastated much of Iran, but new dynasties, such as the Ilkhanids and later the Timurids, restored stability and artistic splendor. In 1503 after Christ, the Safavid dynasty rose to power and made Shia Islam the official religion of Iran, a decision that continues to define Iranian identity today. Under the Safavids, cities like Isfahan became renowned for their architecture, art, and scholarship. After the fall of the Safavids in the 18th century, the Afsharid and Qajar dynasties ruled Iran. The Qajars, from the late 18th to the early 20th century, struggled with internal reform and foreign interference, especially from Russia and Britain. In 1921 after Christ, Reza Khan seized power and later established the Pahlavi dynasty, modernizing Iran's infrastructure, education, and military. His son, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, continued modernization, but faced growing opposition due to political repression and inequality. In 1979 after Christ, widespread protests led to the Islamic Revolution, which ended the monarchy and established the Islamic Republic of Iran under Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. Since then, Iran has remained a theocratic republic, balancing religious authority with political institutions. Despite international tensions and internal challenges, Iran continues to play a major cultural and geopolitical role in the Middle East today. In the year 1979, a broad popular movement arose in Iran, made up of clerics, students, workers, and intellectuals against the monarchy of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The Shah fled into exile, and Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returned to Tehran from exile in France. Shortly thereafter, the Islamic Republic of Iran was proclaimed, a political religious system that merged religious authority with state power. The new constitution, approved by referendum in December of that year, granted the supreme religious leader, the so-called Rabar, the highest authority in the state. Thus began a period of profound social and political transformation. Western influences were suppressed, many institutions were Islamized, and the clergy assumed a dominant role in public life. In November 1979, radical students occupied the United States Embassy in Tehran and took more than 50 people hostage. The hostage crisis lasted for over 400 days and led to the severing of diplomatic relations between Iran and the United States, ties that have still not been fully restored. In September 1980, the Iran-Iraq War broke out when Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein invaded Iranian territory. The war lasted 8 years and claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. Entire cities were destroyed, and the country sank into deep economic and humanitarian crisis. Yet the war strengthened national identity and cemented the ideological foundation of the Islamic Republic. After Khomeini's death in 1989, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei became supreme leader, while Ali Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani was elected president. During the 1990s, the country focused on reconstruction, economic stabilization, and a cautious opening toward the outside world. Nevertheless, political life remained tightly controlled, and reform efforts were often blocked by conservative institutions. In 1997, Mohammad Khatami was elected president. Considered a reformist, he advocated freedom of expression, women's rights, and dialogue with the West. Under his leadership, a new spirit of hope spread through society, and many Iranians longed for openness and change. However, conservative forces in the Guardian Council and the judiciary obstructed many reforms, leaving much of that hope unfulfilled. In 2005, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad came to power. During his presidency, political rhetoric grew sharper both domestically and internationally. He denied the Holocaust, verbally attacked Israel, and pursued a confrontational foreign policy. The dispute over Iran's nuclear program led to severe international sanctions that hit the economy and population hard. After the disputed presidential elections of 2009, massive protests erupted, the so-called Green Movement. Hundreds of thousands took to the streets to protest electoral fraud and political repression. The government responded with violence, arrests, and censorship. In 2013, Hassan Rouhani was elected president. Seen as a moderate, he sought reconciliation with the West. Under his leadership, the nuclear agreement with the world powers was reached in 2015. Iran agreed to limit its nuclear activities in exchange for economic relief. Many Iranians connected this deal with hopes for recovery and new freedoms. Yet in 2018, the United States under President Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the agreement and reimposed harsh sanctions. The country again plunged into deep economic crisis. Inflation soared and the national currency collapsed. Since 2018, Iran has seen recurring waves of protest against corruption, repression, and poverty. Especially in September 2022, nationwide demonstrations erupted after the death of the young Kurdish woman Gina. Known internationally as Mahsa Amini, following her arrest by the morality police. Her death sparked the Woman Life Freedom Movement, led primarily by women, but supported by people across all segments of society. The government responded with brutal force, arrests, and internet shutdowns. Nevertheless, this movement is regarded as a turning point in Iran's modern history, for it made visible a deep-rooted longing for freedom, equality, and human dignity. Today, in the year 2025, Iran stands at a historic crossroads. It remains an Islamic republic marked by religious rule and state control. Yet it is also a country with a young, educated, and increasingly globally connected population. The people continue to suffer under sanctions, inflation, environmental degradation, and political repression. But many persist in striving for change, education, art, and social justice, often at great personal risk. Internationally, Iran plays a major geopolitical role through its relationships with Russia, China, Syria, and Hezbollah in Lebanon, as well as its influence on conflicts across the Middle East. Despite decades of isolation, internal struggles, and external pressures, Iran remains a nation of profound cultural, intellectual, and human strength. A country continually redefining its identity between tradition, religion, and the desire for a freer future. Would you